And good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com, where we talk with the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. And Coach, couple big wins this week as your Wawasee Warriors really getting it tuned up, headed into sectional time. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine all to last week when we took on those Jimtown Jimmies. And the first time ever, I couldn't believe it was the first time ever that we had played Jimtown. Seems like with a school that close, we should have played them at least once in 30 years.
Yeah, we've kind of had them on the radar in terms of getting them on the schedule. But, when I first got here, I think the year before I got here, we played John Glenn. We'd go over to John Glenn and play. But the NIC, added a few teams, and they obviously you got to play the conference games. And so some of those schools over there are so locked in with their conference because there's so many teams in that conference that they just don't have very many non-conference slots on their schedule to go outside and play some people. But, this year obviously is different with a lot of teams being added and subtracted for obvious reasons. And, I was looking through, the teams on John Harrell website and trying to find one extra opponent that would be good for us. And it just so happened that Jimtown was short a game and they didn't play last night. So if they wouldn't have played us on Tuesday,
they'd have gone a week.
They would have gone a week or a week and a half without even playing a game. So it was a no-brainer for them. I think it was two evenly matched teams, obviously, by the score of the game. So we were glad they would come over. Plus, I told Brent Doty, I said, well, let's schedule a game, but I don't want to travel anywhere. I'm just getting a little older and would rather have a home game. So they were nice enough to schedule us, number one. Two, to come over and play a home game, which was nice for us.
Coach, I think you and I have had this discussion before, but what do you get out of playing a non-conference team as compared to playing within the conference? What's the benefits?
Well, for example, we had Fort Wayne Lures contact us about playing on that night, and so we kind of had a choice. And again, any other year, it just is very rare for a game to get canceled. In any other year. So you generally are not looking for opponents. It's almost like the summertime where you're like calling the coaches, like, hey, can you play? I got a buddy down at Adams Central. I called him, said, hey, you guys are short one game. You want to come up and play.
That'd be a big road trip.
Yeah. For them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was interested, but they had a middle school tournament, that day. And so what you're looking for is opponents that are going to get you ready for sectional play. And really, like Fort Wayne Lures, it would have been kind of cool to play Fort Wayne Lures, but they just didn't fit the mold in terms of what our sectional teams are like. And so really, as I'm looking to add an additional game, we don't have to do it, number one. But if we do add a game, which we did in Jimtown, it needed to be an opponent that we could kind of compare to some of our sectional teams. And I thought they did that. They got good guards. They gave us some problems, with their three-quarter court press. It wasn't like we added a team that was 20-0, that was going to just wipe us off the floor, type thing. So I thought it was a good school to add, 3A school. That was similar to us and similar to our opponents, and so that was the thought process behind adding Jimtown.
We ended up winning that game 47-46. It's said oftentimes that winning is learned, that teams have to learn how to win, and it looked to me like your team was really starting to grasp what it takes to put a W in the books in that Jimtown game because they were ahead. They let Jimtown come back, but they put enough on the ground to make it happen.
We did enough early to build a little bit of a cushion. You've seen us do it before. We had West Noble, a very good basketball team, down 9 points or 10 points with 1:20 to go, and we ended up winning by 2 or 3 or something like that. We've struggled to kind of finish out games, and we're searching for what would make us tick at the end of games. And so again, at Jimtown, it was, those guys just didn't have any quit in them, and no team that we play on our schedule does, so again, you think about things that are going to prepare you to have success down the road, even though that road is kind of shortened now. It was some good learning experiences for our guys to, again, build a lead, play well enough to have a lead, and then we didn't make some very good decisions down the stretch that we talked about. So you talk about coaching and teaching and learning. That particular game, we certainly feel really good about coming out on top, having more points than they did at the end of the game. But there were some things that we needed to clean up in that game, and we were pretty fortunate to get a victory there.
Yeah, a varsity basketball game is 32 minutes long. Part of the whole thing is learning the feel of an entire 32-minute game, and that's where I think your team really has come along in the last, I'll say, 2 weeks. Is that your team? It's more than just knowing the game's going to end at a certain point. It's the feel of a game and how it's got to come to a climax and a conclusion right there at the very end. And that seems to be something your team has really grown into.
Yeah, we had, last night, what you saw, we were up, I think, 10 or 13, with 3 minutes to go, and I called a timeout. Actually, my wife this morning, why would you call timeout? And what I told her was, we're just getting a feel still, for, what makes our guys tick down the stretch. And so, somebody might ask, why would you press, when you're up 10 points and, when you really should fall back? It's like a prevent defense in football, like you got some teams that fall back and prevent defense. You got other teams that will rush 5 guys or whatever the football terms are. Last night, we started pressing them with about 3 minutes to go. And I thought that was probably better than what we've done in the past, because it's just our team. They struggle sometimes with pulling the reins back and kind of, even offensively, passing the ball around, we get a little uncomfortable. We're just better when it's like, let's go. If we're up 8, we try to get up 13. And to be honest with you, I think the score last night was not indicative. The final score was not indicative of the way we finished that game. Because they threw in some threes.
Yeah, you had that 32-minute mark in mind. And whether you won by 2 or whether you won by 20 or whether you won by 200, it was still going to be a W in the book. So if they hit a 3 with 45 seconds to go and they were down by 8 and another down by 5, as long as you get to take all the time to come up to the timeline and blow a little time off in a North Carolina D, then who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Now, the good thing is you have a little bit of a cushion. So, you would expect in sectional play that the games will be a little closer,
Right.
So, how are we going to respond when we're up 2 or 4, in those situations? But we had just enough of a cushion last night and against Jimtown where we could try some different things, and it's still part of the process of figuring out what's going to work for us in just the right situation in our season. Well, we're right there. We're right there. We're heading into sectionals next week, and we tried some things last night. So sometimes it's a gut feeling too as a coach on what's going to work, but obviously we're in a good place getting those leads. That says a lot about our team right now.
Attack. I think that that was a key word, not only yesterday morning when my Fairfield student interviewed you, but I think in the keys in the broadcast, attack. And you just kind of referenced that. To Bill's point of 32 minutes, can your boys attack for 32 minutes without losing their breath?
Well, that's what Roger said. Somebody might ask, why don't you do that the whole game? Well, he said because they're human, and so it is like a bit of a chess match, during the game, for me, when to call a timeout. Generally speaking, right now, timeouts are being called throughout the game to give guys rest and just to give them breaks so we have enough energy to finish the game at the end. So we have to pick and choose our moments where, we get on spurts. And I thought last night there was a feel. Last night it was like a boxing match where you got two teams kind of feeling each other out. Coaches are feeling each other like, what are you going to show? What are you not going to do? And the game kind of, for me, from my perspective, was like it was like two teams kind of feeling each other out in the first half. And then
very much so.
Third quarter, it came out and you saw some knockout punches. And luckily we threw them and landed them and built a bit of a lead and ended up winning the game. So, I think Tuesday's game will be different, obviously.
Well, I don't know if you listen to the broadcast much or not, that like the home games are on YouTube. I think Bill Dixon's infatuated with Coach Sorrell.
Yeah.
Because he talks about him all the time.
Two big fat old guys.
I know.
What's not to love?
But to piggyback on what I just asked, because you're a product of that, can you possibly even think about attacking for 32 minutes after being coached under that guy?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I did play, 4 years for Coach Sorrell, and just a little plug for what he did. He's all-time winningest coach at Goshen basketball history. He's got over 400 wins. He basically is a Hall of Fame, type coach. And growing up in that system, it was the only way. That was the way we did things. That was the only way. But when you get into the profession of coaching, you go to clinics, you do so much professional development, you work under coaches, and you start to develop. I was just talking to a coach, former coach, Phil Mishler, about this just yesterday or day before, in that, you look at other coaches, say Plymouth in their heyday, and Jack Edison and the way he runs his offense, and you think, yeah, I want to be that guy. And then you look at somebody else, yeah, I want to be that guy, but you can never be somebody you're not. You can't do that. You develop your own philosophies, and there's the little pieces of Goshen basketball in me. There's little pieces of Tri-State basketball. There's little pieces of everywhere I've been. Grace College, Coach Kessler. Everywhere I've been, every coach that I've worked for, every clinic that I went to, coming up, pages and pages of notes and notebooks and videos and everything that you do, it kind of culminates into what I bring to the table as a coach.
Are you predictable?
Well,
in the eyes of coaches out there, do they know who Coach Jon Everingham is, and they can easily prepare their boys for a game against you?
I would say, surprisingly, yes. It is but every veteran coach is predictable because they tend to fall back on the things that have worked for them in the past. So, I know Chad Patrick over there, but you also know that his dad, Bill Patrick, who is a Hall of Famer, is sitting right next to him. So there is a little bit there to think about. Well, what are they going to go to? That 1-3-1 zone. That's one. Coach Bill Patrick, hundreds of games. Late in the games. They go to a 1-3-1 in the fourth quarter. We handle it pretty well last night. And so, I think all veteran coaches are predictable. And sometimes you'll see this new coach come in, and he's a young guy, and you don't know much about him. And for a year, you think he's the greatest thing on planet Earth that's ever come to Indiana basketball in terms of coaching. But then, guess what other coaches do? They figure it out. They find out, oh, you know what, that looks a little different. And it doesn't matter what style of basketball Coach Mishler, had the run and gun, the Grinnell style, and very, very successful doing that. But he had to adjust as coaches started to figure out what was working against that. It's the same thing for me. Things that I've done over the years. Coach Wolf, Coach, basically every coach that's watched me and known me over my career, they know what I'm going to turn to in just the right moment. So it is a chess match to think about, well, I think they might know what I'm going to do here, and do I do something a little different, or do I just stick with what we're good at and what I know? So it's very interesting. If you could get like a coach's brain, like some way of knowing exactly what's going through a coach's brain during the game, it would be like pages and pages of thoughts and decisions that you have to make. It's
you're
crazy.
A smart guy. You're a math guy. Figure that out, because you watch NASCAR, they put this telemetry all on the TV screen or whatever else. So get a cap or something that fits over his brain, and then let's put that on the screen and develop that. You think we can do that?
Mrs.
Or do we want to
Everingham,
see it?
Mrs. Everingham might have something to say about us shaving his head to get the cap to adhere, get all the electrodes to adhere. We'll talk more basketball when we come back. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Talking to the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, time to talk about that second season. The regular season is now in the rearview mirror. We've played all these teams that are over at West Noble in Sectional 21, tournament that starts Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. We should mention there are 600 Wawasee tickets available. They will be available at the door at West Noble. Again, that game is Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Three of the teams, the three that we're not immediately facing, West Noble, Lakeland, and Northwood. Shall we talk first about West Noble, the Chargers?
Yeah, I think here's what's interesting is that I think every team thinks they got a shot, and they should. They really should, because they do. And you take a look at there's 5 teams in our sectional, and we actually have beaten 3 of the 4. So we beat West Noble, we beat Lakeland, we beat Tippy Valley, we played Northwood tough. And then if you start comparing scores, West Noble beat Northwood, and Northwood's definitely the favorite, going into the sectional, but not by much. So, Tippy Valley is thinking, certainly come Tuesday that they can beat us, and they can. So it's one of those, it's a wide open. It really is wide open. And as everybody always says, heading into the sectional, anything can happen. And we've seen it over and over in my time here. And then I could go back into, my 13 years and give you stories of, the favorite doesn't always come out on top. And in some cases, it doesn't happen for a while, So I think, West Noble certainly getting the draw that they did over on the other side, they're feeling really good about that. They've won 4 of their last 5 games.
That's what I was going to ask you to do, is to tell us a little bit about West Noble here lately, because it's been quite a while since we had them at our place.
Yeah, and what I do, I was actually thinking about this morning. You really you forget about the season as a whole for teams, and you really look at the last 6 games. And we even did that with ourselves. We did statistics over the last 6 games. We did statistics over the last 12 games, and because you get to the end of the season, you're in a lot of cases you're just a different team than you were. So if you start out 0-8, which no team did in our sectional, but if you did, but you've won 5 of your last 6, then you're a different team, so there's no use in really thinking that, well, the record's not very good, because the records don't matter at this point. So West Noble in particular has won 5 of their last 6. So I misspoke there. They've won 4 straight games in 5 of their last 6. So I think they're a major player in the game. Arguably, we would be the ones to argue probably, but they have the best player, or a top 3 player in the sectional, in Austin Kripe. He's averaging 18.5 points a game. He's a very talented player. He gets after it on the defensive end. Braxton Miller at the point guard position is a veteran guard for them, and then they bring in some shooters that are fully capable. They're big guys. Are not big scorers, but they're big boys, so they're going to create problems. Lakeland, is a team that I watched, Tuesday night or Wednesday night play against Northwood. And I think going into the 4th quarter, I think the game was a 2-point game. So Lakeland's over there thinking that they certainly have a chance against West Noble. And if they beat West Noble, that they're going to have a chance against, whoever is on that side of the bracket. So when you look at that West Noble Lakeland game, Lakeland with the all-time leading scorer in Bontrager, and a kid named Douglas, who has also come on late in the year, has been scoring 20-plus points a game. Bontrager's averaging probably 23 or 25 points a game. And I will add, too, the Lakeland-Northwood game, the coach's kid, who is a sophomore, is shooting about 50% from 3, was not available that game, so I'm not sure exactly why, but so they get Kyle back, for the sectional play. I think that game is probably arguably a toss-up game on the one side of the bracket. So, again, West Noble and Lakeland draw the bye. Whoever wins that game gets to go to the sectional finals, and whoever gets there is going to feel like they have a real chance. Lakeland against Northwood, Lakeland against Wawasee, Lakeland against Tippy Valley, whoever it is over there, they're going to feel pretty good about going into that game and having a real shot. I will add, too, it happened to us, I think, 2 years ago, where we drew the bye. We had to win 1 game to get to the finals. Tippy Valley knocks off Northwood, and it's Tippy Valley Wawasee in the finals, and we had only lost by 1 to Tippy Valley in the regular season. So I think that's how it's going to play out. Whoever gets there is going to feel like, I think we got a real chance to win this.
March Madness, college side of things, all bets are off. Who's going to win, who's going to lose. on the high school side of things, is it that way too, for the most part? I mean, because it seems like our sectional is pretty evenly matched. But, everybody has these predictions. I don't pay attention to any of that stuff, but is it anybody's game?
Yeah, and that's what creates. Look, I mean, seriously, like I said, I guess if we got time, we can go back just a little bit. But my first year at DeKalb, we had a bare cupboard when I took over there, and
that happens to incoming coaches quite frequently,
especially at the 4A level, honestly, because if the cupboard wasn't bare,
the other coach would have stayed.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So the DeKalb had a very good coach in Joe Bradburn, but he moved down to Indianapolis. He's coaching at Seneca, I think now, and but I knew taking over that program was going to be a bit of a challenge, much like it was here. But we battled and scratched and clawed all season long that year, and I could name the players, but you guys wouldn't know them, and nobody probably really cares at this point, other than the people living in Auburn. But we scratched and clawed all year. We ended up the season over at Northridge the year, this is probably 10 years ago, but the year that they had an undefeated regular season, 20-0. And we lost that game, but we played them so tight and so tough that I thought we'd have a chance in our sectional. And the problem was we had the number 3 ranked team in Fort Wayne Snyder, and we had the number 7 team in Fort Wayne Carroll, and we had 5 wins that year. We were 5-15, and I thought we had a chance because it's Indiana basketball, and everybody's got a chance. Well, we won on a last-second shot against Fort Wayne Carroll, knocked off the 7th-ranked team. We go Friday night to Fort Wayne Northrop and beat them, I think, 37-32. We're going to the sectional finals, a 5-win team, and we are ready to pull off the biggest upset probably in the history of Northeast Indiana. And they were just too strong, to be honest. We had the ball. We had the ball down a possession late in that game. We're talking about guys that played in the NBA. Their forward, I can't remember his name, played in the NBA. Division I. They had 2 Division I guys. One guy that went to Northwestern. The other guy go to Illinois State. And what I'm getting at, the point that I'm getting at is that it's Indiana high school basketball. Strategy, trumps size, athleticism, execution. The fact that, honestly, at that time, the fact that there was no shot clock, that we could control the ball, and we were able to keep the ball out of their hands. Again, another analogy would be like when Peyton Manning's at his prime, right? The biggest game plan against him was we're going to run the ball so that Peyton is over there drinking his Gatorade most of the game. The time of possession was such a huge key. So there's strategy that you can use to kind of keep, teams from, winning big. And if you use that strategy right, anything can happen. Anything can happen. So, March Madness, Indiana high school, IHSAA, sectional play is a lot like that, because it doesn't matter what your record is. Again, Tippy Valley has got the worst record in our sectional, and I promise you, Coach Patrick's over there today saying, guys, we can do this. And they're going to believe him, and they should, because it's actually true, So it does create excitement for all 5 teams in the sectional. Now, people argue against, should we be seeding these tournaments? Why is it a blind draw? Indiana history and all that stuff. But here's what it does when you don't do a seeding, type thing. You think about the best team and playing the worst team. It doesn't give teams necessarily the hope that it does with the blind draw. So I like things how they are. The blind draw, the sectional draw is an exciting time. Teams get together and all that stuff. So the saying goes, anything can happen in the sectional play, and it is true. And it could be really exciting over there this next week. I'm talking last-second shots, close games. I really think that's going to happen over there.
I don't think there's much doubt about it, because you've got 5 teams very evenly matched in that sectional.
Yeah, well, yesterday in your interview with the Fairfield student, Philip, you had mentioned late breaking news, IHSAA might want to go to now a 5-class basketball, like the football program is.
Yeah.
So Fairfield obviously used to be in our sectional, and then they went down to 2A. You were mentioning maybe even, who knows, it could be a Columbia City type school or whatever. So tell us, hit on that a little bit.
Oh, well, okay. So the thing is, when I was at DeKalb, I keep going back to there, but we what I considered us as a mid-major, like in reference to college basketball. You got Butler, for example, that they do things the right way, but they're a smaller school.
MAC conference type school.
Yeah. But you have those teams sometimes that make it to the Sweet 16. It's an amazing story, right? And it's fun to watch. They're fun to root for, the Cinderella team. But, Indiana high school basketball goes to a class system and try to make it equal and fair for everybody, except they forgot about a group of schools, and it's the lower level 4A schools. So we had at DeKalb, we had like 1,150 students, 1,150 students, and we go into sectional play, and we're playing against Fort Wayne Carroll, Fort Wayne Northrop, and all these big schools, Snyder, that have like 2, 3, and sometimes 4,000 students to choose from.
Because inside that quarter of the schools, if you took all the schools and listed them from Indianapolis, Ben Davis with the most students to somebody like Hamilton with the fewest students, that's what they do for class. And so you're playing in 4A, you're playing in that top group.
Yeah.
So it's everybody from Indianapolis, Ben Davis, which when everybody goes to school at Ben Davis, they are bigger than the city of Goshen.
Yeah.
Everybody from there down to just above Fairfield. I mean, that's what you're talking about in that class. And it's the argument that's been made many times for the super class.
Yeah, that's so. Football goes, I think, with 16 or 24 or whatever they get to do. But the schools like DeKalb and East Noble and those schools that are really, honestly, if you're going to go with class and you're going to say that you're going to make it fair for everybody, then why don't you make it fair for everybody? You know, and it's just not fair. Wawasee, Northwood, we're at 950, let's say 1,000 students or whatever. The smallest school that we would play is like the disparity amongst students would be 200 students. But when you go to 4A, the disparity in the size of schools can go to 1,100 students to 5,000 or whatever, 3,500 students, So that's what's on the table with the IHSA and the athletic directors is saying, well, what are you going to do then? You're going to break it down evenly? You're going to make a class here? So what's going to happen is DeKalb and East Noble will stay in 4A. Wawasee Northwood will move to 4A because we're at the higher end of 3A. So we're not going to benefit from this. But DeKalb and East Noble now will no longer play, and these are just examples, but they'll no longer play Carroll, Homestead. If you win the DeKalb sectional, guess who you get to play? You get to play Carmel, Homestead.
I was going to say Cathedral.
Yes, you're playing these massive schools down on the north side. So the odds of winning a regional championship are almost zero, seriously. Because in the sectional, you got to beat Carroll, Snyder, and probably Northrop. Then you got to go to the regional and you got to beat Carmel and whoever else is down there that's a humongous school. You got to go through the gauntlet. So what I'm saying is, and what I'm telling you is that that's what's on the table. That I just say they're trying to make a 5-class system to say, okay, all you mega schools go up here. What it's going to do is it's going to move the higher end 3A schools to 4A. So it's like football, honestly. I think we play in a 4A, sectional. Our sectional could look way different. So it is one of those things. I know we got to go to the next segment here, but it's one of those things that the reason why these votes never actually work out is because all schools will try to do what's best for their school, and that's what they should do. So we're going to vote no, right? We're going to vote no. Like, no, we want to be the biggest school in 3A. All the small 4A schools are going to get, yes, we got to do this now because it's not fair. The higher end 2A schools, they don't want to go to 3A. They're going to vote no. It always works out.
So the vote's a wash at that point in time.
It always works out. It's about 50-50, and it never really works out for change.
When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the team health and where the team's at here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com, where we talk to the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, we traveled down to Death Valley last night. We took on Tippecanoe Valley, come out with the win. Now then, we turn around Tuesday night, and who do we play? Tippecanoe Valley in the first round of the IHSAA sectional. Seems like that happens almost every year.
Yeah, I talked to Bill Patrick last night and after the game, and he said something about it's been at one point it was 8 of the 11 years where that happened. It's
you sure
almost,
somebody isn't weighting those ping pong balls?
It seems like it'd be mathematically impossible for that to happen, but you almost get groomed to think that you're just going to play Valley in the sectional, So I since I've been here 4 years or whatever, I think we played them every year except for one, and that was last year because they lost to Lakeland on Tuesday, and we had the winner of Lakeland Valley. But I think every other year we played them, so it just kind of gets ingrained in who you are here at Wawasee. You're going to play Valley in the sectional.
We played them last night. We're going to play them again Tuesday. There's an old axiom: you don't want to play anybody twice, particularly that close together. This has got to be tough because we came out with the win. They are going to now change things in order to react to that.
Well, Jeremy, do you have a list of people that listen to the radio show? Like, can you figure out who's listening from where? And we should get that if we don't have that, because here's the thing.
I can tell you whether the coaches are listening to this show. Is that what you're wanting to know?
I know who's listening. I know who's listening. They're all listening. At least in my brain they are. So I got to be careful probably what we say, but we as in me, so let's work on the politically correct statement. We respect Tippy Valley. We know that they're fully capable of beating us on Tuesday. We're going to play better on Tuesday. So will they. And we'll be very prepared for anything that they might throw at us. Was that good?
That was excellent. Very well
awesome.
done. All right. Lou Holtz would be proud.
What the audience doesn't know is I wrote that for him.
Thank you.
But no, I'm kidding.
I woke up this morning and wrote it. I thought it in my head. I was like,
came out of the coach's handbook, page 46.
They're going to be listening. I know, I do it. I remember the year we beat Warsaw at Warsaw, I remember listening to about 3 of Doug Ogle's Saturday morning radio shows trying to find something that we could use. I don't know if it worked or not, but yeah, it's very awkward to play a game against a team, on Friday and turn right around and play them again. It just doesn't happen, very often, and like normally. It doesn't happen very often, but what they're doing. They're over there, talking about the things that they could have done just a little bit better, and they obviously had a 5-point lead, at halftime. They're going to be watching that first half and talk about what went right.
That they are.
And there's no question when you lose the game that it's easier to sell that you need to make adjustments. That, hey, if we don't do these things a little bit better, if we don't make these adjustments, and it's easier to sell. The kids are going to go, yeah, we lost. We probably should do something a little bit different. It's a lot harder to sell adjustments when you win the game because your kids might be thinking, and maybe everybody's thinking, why don't we just do exactly what we did?
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to work because they're not going to do the same thing. So it's not, the statistics, the mathematics to it doesn't equal, the equation to victory. So we'll have to make some adjustments, and I got some ideas on what I think they're going to do. And like I said, today, look, this has all played out in my mind for since the sectional draw, on what we're going to need to do and what I think they're going to do. Actually, last night's game played out. I don't know if Roger talked to you last night or he asked me what defense I thought they were going to play, and I told him what was right. They basically played man-to-man, went to a 1-3-1 zone, late in that game. So I think things will be different.
They didn't shoot a lot from the outside at first. They did there in the tail end when they were trying to catch up. But they're really, statistically, more of an outside shooting team than they showed us last night.
Yeah, in Cumberland, that's Cumberland is
he had
averaging
3 points last night.
I think he only got one shot.
Yeah.
And so he is certainly that particular player is probably sitting at home going, I can play better, and so we're gonna have to make sure we don't forget about who he is. They got a freshman shooter coming off the bench. They got they got players. The Perkins on the inside certainly is a player that we have to really make sure that we don't allow him to score too many. Last night he had 15, and some of them just looked really easy. And as a matter of fact, he missed a couple bunnies.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, when he basically disintegrated in the third quarter. He was not a factor in the third quarter at all. In fact, he sat for 4 minutes in the third quarter, and Wawasee made hay while the sun shined. The Perkins kid last night was not the impact player for the entire 32 minutes that I think he could have been.
Yeah, 15 points, eight rebounds, and it looked out like early in the game.
In the first half, he was a giant killer.
Yeah, he was. He got Colin in foul trouble,
Yep.
and we put in Grant Brooks. Grant really struggled with him, which is okay. I mean, that's normal because it's not a great matchup, for us. We put Adam Beer on him, and Adam, he went around Adam pretty easily. We actually tried to put Mark Wiggs in the game, and I thought he did a pretty good job, physically keeping him out of the paint.
He bodied him. It worked.
So that's something we're going to explore, again today to see. I thought Colin did okay on him, but he fouled him. So
you're going to have to watch out for that Wiggs kid. I'm going to tell you right now, because every time he gets the ball, his mouth opens. He cannot play the game with his mouth closed. And it's not, I don't mean he's talking or anything. No, I mean physically his mouth is open like a fish. He's going to swallow a mosquito or a fly or something.
Go back,
all right.
Go back and watch Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Did the same, seriously, did the same thing.
Well, then we need a better air filtration system in the gymnasium here at the Hardwood Teepee to make sure that's not going to happen. I was most impressed last night, Coach, by the development of your players who maybe weren't the star at the beginning of the year, particularly the Weldy kid, I'm thinking, who went down to JV and played some minutes and is now he's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, he is.
I was very impressed with Robertson. He was borderline varsity player at the beginning of the year. He's a force to be reckoned with. And Adam Beer last night, I thought, had a tremendous game for you.
Yeah, people do not understand the when you sign up to be on the basketball team, people really don't quite understand. You have dreams and visions of getting out there and doing things, and sometimes the coach doesn't put you in the game, so it's very difficult to handle, especially as a teenager, and it's very difficult to handle as a coach, because you got to communicate with players and say, hey, you got to hang in there, we might need you, we might not, and so really proud. Or you take somebody like Grant Brooks, who his minutes
he had a great game last night, limited minutes, but when he came in on the 6'7" kid Perkins had a little something else to worry about.
Yep, and those guys have had the opportunity to really say, man, what is going on? I'm not, and I'm not going to practice hard. I'm not going to do this. And boy, I'm not going to stand up when people, you watch the film and we got all the guys on the bench, every one of those guys, and I would expect them to be this way. They want to be in the game. They're dying to have their number called to get in the game, right? And so they think they have confidence in what they can do on the floor, but we can only play 5 at a time, and so we've kind of narrowed down the bench just a little bit and played 6 guys the majority of the minutes. But I think what I was most proud of last night is when I put those other guys in the game, that there was no real letdown.
None.
And the thing that I want to say is that it takes a lot to be able to stick with it when things aren't quite going your way. Coach doesn't call your number for a series of games, or maybe for, like in Mark Wiggs' case, like pretty much the whole season. Halfway through the season, I had a conversation with him just about, hey, you know what? You're doing some good things. You could provide some value to our varsity team. Are you aware of that? He's like, absolutely, Coach. Just put me in. I'll show you. And like almost literally said that. He's wanting to get in there, and we just haven't found enough right times, to put him in there. Last night, it just so happened, the first possession he gets in there, we call his number, and he takes a 3. He's actually a very good 3-point shooter, and it jiggled in and out, and so it's something where I know what to expect when I put him on the floor, and I think those guys' attitudes and their willingness to kind of stick it out and be genuinely happy for other guys when they're experiencing success on the floor, just waiting their turn, just waiting their turn. And I think last night we kind of prepped them to say, hey, we want to play a few more guys to get some guys some rest, and they were ready to go when their number was called. It was really good.
Well, I think it speaks incredibly highly of your program, because to have one kid face that kind of adversity and stay, that could be the kid.
Yep.
I named 4 kids.
Yep.
All 4 stayed. All 4 worked harder, or at least in a more focused way. And all 4 now are better contributors than they were before. That's not just one kid, all right? That speaks to your program. What you are doing worked, because you're the variable in that mix. What you're doing worked.
Well, I appreciate that, but I will tell you it's more about the kids, honestly.
Well,
the
but
personality.
it's simple math, all right? Even if that kid is 90% likely to stay, if I take 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9, I got a 50% chance of keeping them all.
Yeah.
All right, well, 60. All right, 60, 54% chance of keeping them all. All right, so for your program to keep them all,
Yeah.
just from a math doesn't lie. The math behind it says you got to be doing something right, Jerry.
Well, we just got a math lesson. This is awesome.
That's right. Yeah.
No, and I
Little
concur.
statistics there. That's all right.
I definitely concur, and Coach and I have had that conversation a lot of times. So, how many seniors do you have on your squad this year?
We got 3 seniors.
So you're going to lose 3. Let's talk briefly next year. What do you see next year looking like?
Well, I see that we'll have 3 solid players, returning, and a lot of guys that are going to be itching and scratching and clawing and fighting for those other spots, So we have a whole slew of players that are going to be thinking and dreaming, just like I just said, But I think, guys that have established themselves as varsity players and they're not going anywhere, Keaton Dukes and Colin Robertson and Welty, those guys are going to be there. When it's all said and done and next year rolls around, those guys are going to be there. They're providing real value for, the production on the floor. Mm-hmm. And not only that too, and I happen to be talking about this morning, I think the culture of our program, and I think you were alluding to that a little bit, about the culture of the program, it is. Right now, you look at those 3 guys, you look at our 3 seniors and basically everybody, you think about what type of kid they are on and off the floor. And I had somebody comment to me after the game last night about how impressed they were that every time there was a dead ball and one of our players had the ball, how impressed they were that the guys would run the ball over to the official. When the official hands you the ball, during the game is thank you, sir, and yes, sir, and no, sir. And so the exemplary report that we got at Mishawaka from Ethan and Cam, I think there are people, students that dream of being a Wawasee basketball player, and they're realizing that, look, if I want to go a different route, then I can't play basketball. If I play basketball, these are the things, these are the expectations, this is the culture. I'm going to have to be a good kid. This is what is expected of these guys. And then the examples that are being set by these guys are incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. So you look at Adam Beer and you look at Cam Salazar and Ethan Carey, and then the guys right behind them that I mentioned that will be returning guys, is that we've established that culture. There's a lot of coaches that get new jobs and high school, college, or pro. We're going to change the culture. Well, you can say that all you want, but actually doing it is extremely difficult, and you need the right people to be able to build a culture around that. So you can. And
it takes a commitment of time that your standard garden variety basketball coach cannot see that far into the future.
We got to stop talking already.
Well, real quick though, are there going to be some littler Everinghams wandering the halls of Wawasee High School next year?
Absolutely a fact. And so now on the basketball floor, they will be somewhere on the basketball floor. I don't know what level. They got a long way to go, and I know there's some talk about that, and I'm happy to address that. As a dad, I'm very proud of who they are as people. They're going to fit in real well with the culture of what we've established, and I'm just so very thankful for the
Not
graduates,
because they've ever listened to you, because they listen to their mother, right?
I'll tell you what, that's true, and I hate
And
to
you've
be
said that.
to be this guy. That is definitely true. Okay, but I think it's more about what they see they've been around the program now for 4 years, and it's what they see from the guys who have been here and done that, and they really look up to those guys. And we're talking about, Tim Conley, Tyler Smith, Cameron Slayball, and all those guys, like all those guys from way back when, that was their favorite player, So yeah, Dad is hopefully somebody they look up to, but there's at times I think they think more of Cameron Salazar than they do me. So, and I'm totally fine with that, So it's good
Back
stuff.
with Coach Everingham in just a moment. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. We've come to the end of the regular season. Tippecanoe Valley, always the last game on the calendar before we start sectional play. It takes a lot of people to put Wawasee High School basketball together. And Jeremy, I know you've got a lot of folks that have worked with you this year to make sure we had a broadcast of those games.
I can go back. This is my 7th year at Wawasee High School with the radio TV program, which is now officially called Digital Audio Video Media Production Class. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
But we've seen a lot of great basketball, football, and we've had a lot of great people to work with, and of course our underwriters as well. So, we wouldn't be able to bring these broadcasts to you if it wasn't for guys like former students like Michael Shetler and Braxton Gray. Those 2 young men are in college right now. Michael's a junior, Braxton is a freshman. And, with the pandemic, a lot of college kids were out longer for Christmas break. And so they were bored. And they're like, hey, do you need any help? Yeah, we could use you. And, of course, Bill, you got to work with Michael Shetler.
I did.
And I'll never forget that first broadcast before it even happened. You're like, who is this kid? Does he know what he's doing? So you tell me, did the kid know what he was doing?
Yeah, he's going to make somebody a good play-by-play man if he goes that route. Now, I understand his current career choices are headed in a different direction, but if he were to go that route, he'll make somebody a good play-by-play man.
And he's had the ability to take time to learn that skill, and so you never know when that might come up. So that's Michael Shetler. Braxton Gray, he was on the girls basketball side of things with Coach Roger Brady, did a fabulous job, and of course he was our student broadcaster last year as a senior. Bill Dixon. I don't know if I've ever heard of that guy.
No.
But no. Bill Dixon, who's a longtime broadcaster in our community.
Once again, retrieved from the recycling heap of sports broadcasting.
Yep. And we thank you. Roger Brady, he's a teacher at Syracuse Elementary. And a few years ago, he's like, I've always just wanted to do this. I'm not trained. I just always thought it was cool. And he got his old pal Kem Zolman to come along, which I think he knows a couple things about basketball. And they did those for a few years. Coach Zolman moved out of the area, so we got Braxton to do that. So those are our play-by-play and color announcers. Now, we do have 2 freshmen, young men, who are in my program, and they decided that they would like to take on the play-by-play color commentary role and try it. And funny story, after we had the discussion, they said, yeah, we would like to do that. Can we do it one game and decide whether or not we want to do it or not after that?
Try it before you buy it.
And that'd be like a basketball player coming up to Coach Everingham and saying, can I go out and shoot in a game? And then if I don't like it with all the fans and the way you coach, can I quit your team? I'm like, absolutely not. No, you're going to fight through this, and you're going to learn, and you're going to do a fabulous job. And they did. Zach Bowen, Gavin Gerke. And I'm not sure what their plans are for next year. I've got them for the rest of the trimester. So, hey, we hope to always have some student broadcasters, particularly on the JV side of things. And, of course, behind the scenes, not only do we do a radio broadcast, we do a full-fledged TV production. Mr. Huffman heads that up, and we broadcast live on YouTube. And we couldn't do it without some behind-the-scenes students. This year we got some new remote camera capabilities, so they can actually control the cameras here in the TV control room, along with Mr. Huffman. So these 3 students committed to pretty much the whole season. So I want to give a shout out to Annie Lynn Link Kleinfelter, and as Bill calls him, the mayor of Milford.
The mayor of Milford.
Charlie Kroll.
Charlie
And,
Kroll. I don't know how you get him over here. I would think Milford would need him on call there at the town hall 24 hours a day, but you somehow get him over here.
His sister, he's got a sister in athletics. He's got a sister involved heavily with theater. Charlie's also involved with robotics. And I know they're his parents, and they've told him that you got to be involved in something, and they just love it. They love being here and being a part of programs.
Oh, and Annie Lynn is so active with the Key Club running things there.
Student council.
That's a tremendous requirement and a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, it is. And of course, myself and Mr. Huffman, we couldn't do any of this for Coach Everingham, for Coach Rita Boo at the football season, for you, Bill, and we couldn't do any of it without those students. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point, is to get students involved in that. So last but not least, and then we'll let Coach talk, I guess, eventually, since this is the final show of the season. We definitely couldn't do this without the support of our community businesses, our underwriters. So we would like to thank Northern Lakes Realty, Pizza King, Cedarstone Children's Bookstore, Chubby's Pub and Grub, Goshen Home Medical, Syracuse Pizza Hut, Sox Marina, Maverick Promotions, Scott Gingrich with the Gingrich Group, Penguin Point, Dynamic Floral, Brook Point Resort. We'll be contacting businesses in the community here in the near future to talk about next school year's athletic program, as well as our weather underwriting opportunities. So we want to thank all those folks for allowing us to do this year. And of course, last but not least, thank you, Coach Everingham, for helping my students do some interviews, not only for home games and away games. I know that you have classes typically, and you find a way to get down here and allow my students to be uncomfortable for about 3 to 5 minutes with the first time for interviewing you, but I think you've enjoyed that as well.
I haven't. I'm always on time, right?
Except for the last couple times. Yeah. So thank you.
And Coach Everingham, I know that running Wawasee High School basketball, Wawasee basketball, the program, because it goes all the way down to the third grade level, a tremendous number of individuals required to keep that wheel turning.
Yeah, I was, oddly enough, I was listening to some motivational things this morning, and I was listening to this guy about talking about the balance between work and life in general, and what he was saying is my balance is different because I actually really enjoy it. My hobby is work. Yeah. And so I really enjoy it. And I'm really blessed to feel like that too. Because when I heard that this morning, I thought, yeah, that's kind of how I feel, like I'm really blessed to have my hobby is work, and that's during the day is, working with CTE stuff and work-based learning and all that stuff. And then obviously, extracurricular stuff that happens with basketball is really kind of a cool thing. And so we have so many volunteers that put in, time to our program. And my hope is, and what I think happens is they really enjoy it. And so they don't get paid. In a lot of cases, our program coaches at the lower level to practice and to go to games and to travel and do all these different things. But I think they really enjoy it. They also believe in what we're doing, our core values within our program and what we're trying to teach kids. And I think there's a lot of people that want to be involved, and we give them an opportunity to do that. And so definitely want to thank those guys. Just a quick list of people I have to thank, the administration, our principal, Jeff Walmer, our interim AD, Brent Doty. Those guys certainly have supported me, throughout the season, and our team. And they kind of were right there with us, living and dying by, the ball games and chatting about those things. So those guys have been really supportive. Sometimes the forgotten people are the support staff, the custodians, and the people you don't think about that help us out. Last night I come in and I see 2 custodians at the door greeting us as we come in. Anna, and I'm not sure the other lady's name, but were clapping for us when we come in. Great win, guys! Great win, guys! And they're the ones that change the laundry out every night. And we have never asked them to do that. And so I bought them lunch or dinner because they're third shift, and so it made me think about how appreciative I am of the people that they're not seeking out, recognition for the job that they do for our school, cleaning classrooms, cleaning locker rooms, doing the laundry and all that stuff. They just do their job well. So definitely want to thank them. My assistant coaches, I probably could talk another 14 minutes about, what they mean to me and their loyalty to me as the head coach, their loyalty to the program and all the hard work that they put in there. Angel Hardy is new to our program, doing the book and social media and other communication devices that she's taken over. And probably last but not least is my family at home, right? They get the brunt of hearing things and seeing things and me coming home and maybe being a little grouchy after a bad practice or a bad game. But we're all in on this thing, and they support me 100%. It's obviously, you alluded to before, I got some kids coming through the program, and I don't know if it's going to get any easier in terms of the things that you go through as a family. When it comes to athletics, but I know there's a lot more really fun times than there are bad times. So I'm looking forward to that and spending that time with my family, with the Wawasee basketball program. So we have a whole 4 more minutes to season in review here.
We've come indeed to the end of that season in review. And if I had to sum that season up in one word, it would be improvement.
Yeah.
Your team has really, more than about any team I've seen from Wawasee, really taken the year and gotten better across the year.
No doubt about that, and overcoming adversity. I mean, COVID-19, I know we just try not to talk much about that anymore, but it's real. It was here. And the commissioner of the IHSAA, every time we broadcast, we play that 5 minutes, and it's there's states. I mean, they're having tournaments and whatever else. You've done that. You've overcome adversity.
Yeah, I think there's no question about that. And what I'll tell you is that sometimes when you're evaluating coaches and you look at where were these guys at when they started and where are they at the end, and that's the easiest way to take a look at a coaching staff and see how effective they are. And I don't think there's any question. You look at our team at the beginning of the year and you look at the end of the year, and we've gone from point A to point B, and it's been amazing because there's a lot of doubt along the way of can we get there? Can we accomplish our goals? Our goals of having a winning record are right there on the cusp. We may not quite get there, but that's okay. We've taken a real shot at accomplishing that goal, and very proud of our guys for that. The competing for a sectional championship is still on the line, for us there. But you talk about adversity, and I just wrote down some dates. You look back to the start of the season, and we're a week away from the start of the basketball season. So exciting, right? We got no spring of last year at all, which there's individual skill development that happens then because of COVID. Then you go to the summertime, they won't let us do anything there. And you can't even go into a gray area of selecting a site and going off site and working. You just couldn't do that. It was stay at home. That was the order, and that's the way in which we followed it. I had some people contacting me about, hey, can we do this? I'm like, no, look, we are supposed to stay at home, and that's what we're going to do. So we got no individual skill development in the spring and the summer. We come back, and we're ready to go. You get the team together, and you got 4 weeks. You get the conditioning. You got some open gyms. We're starting to play. Everybody's getting excited, right? We're a week away from the season to start. November the 9th is when we started practice, and we get quarantined. Close contact, basically everybody in our program. We missed the first full week. We missed the week before and the week of. Our first week, that is actually devastating to the beginning of your season. Everything that you're putting in everything, how to break a press and all this stuff. Well, we come back on November 23rd, and we're expected to go play Friday, Saturday against Angola and Prairie Heights. And, the accomplishment of that weekend was incredible, that we were able to get on the floor and function and win a couple games. That was a great feeling. But we follow that up with probably, it's about as bad as it gets. We come back and we realize that a family member of one of our players had COVID, and we're like, uh-oh, if that player has COVID, we're in a little bit of trouble here. And as it turns out, he did. And we had, I think, 9 of our top 11 that actually got COVID on November. We were out from November 30th to December 4th. So it's like back-to-back 2-week quarantines at the beginning of the season. And I'll be perfectly honest. There are a lot of teams that would not have recovered from that.
That's right.
And, for us to start at 3-6 and then have people say, well, what's wrong with your team? You're 3-6. I thought we were going to be good this year, whatever. Well, you just have to you have to take all the factors and say, well, there's probably it's not an excuse. It's actually the reason, and so being able to sell to our team that, hey, it's okay. It's okay. We have to be patient in the development of our team. And, our guys obviously did that. They bought into, the things that we were selling in December and early January to say, hey, relax. This is the team we think we can be by the end of the season. We can't just forget that we lost 4 weeks of our season and then just skip and push fast forward and try to go through. We got to go back and remember that it's about fundamentals, and we lost the summertime. We lost all this time, and we have to be patient moving forward. There wasn't a lot of time, but I think the end product is a direct result of what we went through during that time, that we actually sold something to the kids like, hey, this is what you're going to have to do to get to where we want to go. Forget about the 3-6 record. Forget about, a couple super tough losses. Central Noble whooped us, a good one.
Well, they whooped a lot of people this year.
Yeah, and so we played a good stretch of teams there. We played Ileana Christian that still kind of haunts me. We really probably should have got that game, but even a 1-win or 2-win Fairfield team took us to overtime. We were not in a great spot at that point in time in our season, and things could have fallen apart very, very quickly. And our record would be a lot different if we didn't have the type of kids that we have in our program, when we were going through that stretch there. So I think it says a lot about adversity. It's easy to teach, life lessons when we can look back on our season and say, look, these are the things that we had to overcome in our season, and we did it. So when things happen in your life, moving forward that aren't necessarily good, you can do it. You can overcome some of these adversities that strike. And I thought, that's what high school athletics are about. We talked off air, right before we got on about, high school, athletics. Sometimes when people feel like it's not successful, well, what is success? What do you expect from coaches to win championship? Are you just measured by the championships or the number of games that you win? No. It is so much more valuable for teenagers, young kids, student athletes to learn these types of life lessons that prepare them for life beyond high school basketball, and that's what my belief is, without a shadow of a doubt. Our athletic department in general and the coaches that I deal with, pretty much on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, and our interim athletic director, we are all on the same, we're all on board with why we're doing this. And so just really, honestly, just really blessed to be a part of what happened this year, going through some tough moments and being able to overcome those tough moments. Yes, we would like to win a sectional championship next week. But I think what's going to be hard for me is when it's all over. Every team but 4 teams has got to deal with a loss at the end of the season, right? And we're going to have to deal with that. It's going to be a tough one because these seniors mean a lot to me. And Cam Salazar, a 3-year starter, has been with me through thick and thin. And Ethan Carey and what he's gone through in his personal life and then on the basketball floor. And it's amazing stories. You could spend a whole hour talking about each one of those kids, Adam Beer included, that saw no varsity minutes for basically 3.5 years and stuck with it. And now look what he's doing, So it's a great lesson for all people. It's a great lesson for the young kids in our program, and they've been an amazing example. So we've had plenty of highlights this year. We've had an amazing season. 11-11 sitting here right now is just, I haven't seen Coach O'Connell dance much, but as he walked through the doors last night, he was doing twirls, because we know that it is a really special accomplishment for this team to get to 11 wins. And so just really proud of everybody that's been involved. Thank you guys for everything that you guys have done with the digital audio, media, video recording.
Do I need to tattoo that on your hand so
Yeah.
you know how to say it properly?
But thanks to everybody that's been involved, Michael Shuttler and Roger Brady, and of course you guys that certainly have been here with us all the way through. It's been a crazy, wild ride. We're not done yet. But it's one that we're going to be very proud to look back and say we had a great season.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Coach, and good luck on Tuesday. We'll have that contest right here on 93.7 FM The Mix and online at 937themix.com. But, of course, Bill, we want them at West Noble.
We do. There are 600 seats available. The tickets are available at the door Tuesday night. Now, yes, you could listen on the radio. Yes, you can listen on the phone. And when you're not able to be at the gym, that's the best way to do it. But you got plenty of warning. It's the sectional, people. Tuesday night at West Noble. It's not far away. It's a quick drive. It's almost a home game. We need you in the seats Tuesday night at West Noble. Thanks for listening. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com, WRWTLP, Syracuse.